We're at Lowe's because I realized when I upgraded my table and got a bigger table that it was actually slightly higher than my other table. So I need to get like a little piece of wood so that I can set my Digiboil up a little bit so that way I can weigh out my fragrance oils on my scale, or not my fragrance oil, weigh out my wax on my scale as it's coming out of the Digiboil. So we are at Lowe's. I'm gonna see if I can get a piece of wood that is 15 by 12 and 2 inches tall is what I approximated here. Now I'm at Menards because I found out that the size wood that I was looking for is really like non-standard, and I don't want to make a whole woodworking project out of this. I was really hoping to get something that I could just cut once with a table saw and put right under my Digiboil. So we are gonna see. It looks like Menards is gonna have something, and apparently they have table saws that customers can use. So I am gonna check this out and we're gonna see what happens. Okay, so this is the board that I'm going to be cutting here, and apparently they have like a station where you can cut your own lumber. I just want to make 2 cuts on this thing because I'm going to use some wood glue. 14 inches here. Okay, so there's going to be my first cut. Didn't bring a straight edge or anything here, so I'm just going to use this other piece of wood that's laying around. Just give myself a little bit of a nicer edge here. Okay, so that's about my second cut. Okay, so I got these cut now, and then this one's just a little bit too long, so I'm just gonna take a little bit off of this bottom one. I couldn't really film it because I don't have a tripod. I don't even think I'm supposed to be filming here. But yeah, they have like a whole saw station where you can just come in and cut whatever you want as long as you buy the wood from here. But their saw doesn't actually have a laser, so what I was doing was just holding down the blade over where I want to cut just so I could see it, and just like a little trigger up here and a safety gauge. You just pull those down, so you basically just stabilize your wood with your left hand. And then this is only a 10-inch saw, so since I'm doing like 12-inch lumber, I have to flip it and then go do the other side. But again, just like putting that blade down over where I want to cut. Okay, so that's definitely not super precise, but basically just going to use some wood glue, and that's going to be a little stand for my Digiboil. And it's a lot cheaper than buying wood that's already finished, and you can basically customize to any dimensions that you want.
You work here?
Just kind of gauging where I want my cut there since there's no laser. And then I'm just gonna stabilize this piece of wood with my left hand, pull the safety gauge on this saw down with my right hand, and then it's gonna cut through about 10 inches of this, and then I'll have to flip it to do the remaining 2 inches. So we're just gonna take this glue and then put some down. Oh, like that. Next piece here. Just put that one. That. I'm just gonna let this sit for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then I will unclamp it. So I'm gonna try to show you all how I cut these, so that I don't have to do much of any work once I get them into the jars as far as cutting. Usually I start with a template that I make, but I'm gonna actually show you how I do that in case you didn't have one to begin with. But I just take one of these wicks and I would just put it in the little wick holder, the little cold rolled steel clip, and then put that in my jar and just position it where I want it. And then I would just cut my wick to where I would want it to be when the wax is full. And usually it's about like that. So just wherever you would want it to be. And then you just use this as your template for cutting all of your other wicks. And it's gonna save you so much time and trouble later, because the least amount of work that you can do once your candles are like made, the easier it's gonna be. And these shorter ones, I actually save and use them in my tins. You can also use these as fire starters if you make those, but definitely try to repurpose them if you can. And I always get the 5-inch wicks because they're not that much more money, and you can get so much more wick that way. Okay, so now I've got 3 of these cut, and they don't have to be super exact. You can see how one of them is a little bit longer than the others, but that is gonna be just kind of generally my process for doing this. And I do cut them all at an angle because they are easier to burn when you cut them at an angle. So today I think I'm gonna make 18 of these Rio de Janeiro candles. And so I'm gonna probably cut a couple of extra wicks just in case. I try to always prepare like 19 jars if I'm making 18 candles, just in case something goes wrong with one of them. I always have that extra kind of backup, so to speak. Just kind of helps. The wicks always go all over when you cut them. They like fly everywhere. And I am still using the what do you call it? The glue that I use, but I am in my own practice, like for candles that I'm not selling, working on testing the wick stickers. And because I'd really like to be able to make all my candle vessels repurposable, if that's a word. And these wick trimmers that I use to do this, I do get on Amazon. There are very few wick trimmers that I've found that are sharp enough to easily cut through wood wicks with a nice clean cut. But these ones from the listing that I've purchased them from, I have linked below. They're only like $5, $6, I wanna say. And they are a game changer when it comes to cutting wicks, because most wick trimmers will only work on burned wicks. And you can see just how easy these cut right through these very thick 0.04 series wood wicks. I'm even using 2 sometimes. You can get away with doing 2 wicks at once if you want to, but I generally don't, just because I get a cleaner cut if I do them 1 at a time. But sometimes I do admittedly cut 2 at a time. And then you just attach them all into the clips. And I find that if I angle them, it helps to get them in the clips a little bit easier, because sometimes these thicker wicks, they can be very hard depending on the clip. I feel like they're all not made equally, these cold rolled steel clips. So yeah, I usually just like angle them and then press it all the way in. I'm going to be using this silicone clear adhesive by Permatex, and your wicks will not go anywhere if you use this stuff. Usually you do have to just pull out, or it can be a little bit dried up in the cap on here. But I will have this product linked in the description box, but I will also say that I'm trying to switch to the wick stickers just so that way I can repurpose my vessels, my clients can repurpose them, because this stuff is so hard for most people to get off. it is going to be harder for them to reuse their vessels. And I usually just center my wicks by eye. I do not use any fancy centering tools whatsoever, but I do not knock anybody who does. And you can see this candle that's a little bit lighter, the gold, it's more like a true gold instead of copper. Oh no, shoot, I wasn't supposed to do that. Okay, I gotta take that off because I was gonna use a wick sticker on that one because that's gonna be my personal tester, and I am testing out the wick stickers. So I'm gonna go wipe that glue out really quick here. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do for the one that is my tester is I'm just gonna take these wick stickers that I get on Amazon, and I already did do this jar with rubbing alcohol, but I'm also gonna do the cold rolled steel clip with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Just let that dry, it evaporates really quickly. And I'll just do this jar one more time as well here. And then I'm going to basically just trying to maximize how much this sticks. And that looks like it has evaporated. So I'm gonna press down really hard here. And then I'm gonna take off the base sticker and just center it by eye here. Again, I don't use any special centering tools for these. I generally find that it's not too difficult with just a single wick to center it. And then I'm gonna go in here and just press down even harder. And you can also use like chopsticks, or like I've seen people use all sorts of things to really just jam those wick stickers down. But yeah, so this is gonna be my tester. Every time I make a batch of Wanderlust candles, I keep one out for myself just because I've only been using my wax blend for about a year. And I also am working on testing these wick stickers just on my personal ones for a while before I switch over to them for my clients. I'm gonna measure out my fragrance now, so I'm using a 50-50 of Eternal and Persephone, so it's a 1-to-1 blend, and these are both by 1617. So I'm gonna be just using these beakers. These are the 250 ml beakers that I get on Amazon, and I absolutely love them for fragrances. Just tear out my scale, and then I am going to be doing a total, let's make sure we are in ounces. I'm going to be doing a total of 4.6 ounces of this, so I'm going to do 2.3 ounces of each, so a 50-50. And I'm going to do a couple of these. Ooh, that's a little bit more than I wanted there. Also make it really nice to be able to pour back into the bottle if you need to, because of the little spouts. Oops. Okay, 2.29, that is perfect. And then I'm gonna do Eternal, the same amount. So it'll be a total of 4.6, and I'm gonna be using 50 ounces of wax. So it's a little bit less than 10%. I'm gonna take this to 4.6. 4.59, 4.62, that is perfect. Okay, just give that a little bit of stir, incorporate both of those fragrances, and then I'm gonna do 2 more just like it. Before I put my bottles away, I am just gonna take a clean paper towel and wipe them. With a little bit of rubbing alcohol or any cleaner, like all-purpose cleaner, just in case there was any fragrance oil that got on there. usually spills a little bit, so I'm going to measure out 50 ounces of wax here. And I need to be really careful with this temperature because this is like my first time in the Digiboil. So before I get too far here, I'm gonna just stop it and just take my temperature because I need to make sure that this is getting hot enough. Okay, good. We're over 190. Perfect. Again here. So I'm going to add my fragrance at 185 and we are right now at about 192, which is perfect, but I want to just let this cool a little bit. And I do always measure the temperature with my stick thermometer when I'm looking for those really precise readings because the infrared thermometer is going to be a little bit more of an error margin. And I do use an infrared thermometer, but when I'm looking for those really precise readings for adding in my fragrance oil, I do tend to use the stick thermometer. One thing about infrareds though is they do only measure the surface temperature, so you always want to make sure you stir so that way you get a more accurate reading. The magical number of 185, so I'm going to add in my fragrance oil. So I'm going to spatula here. Stir this in for 2 minutes. Just fill out my Digiboil with some more wax. Usually do this in my regular recipe, so I do 66 ounces of soy, the 464, 19.25 ounces of beeswax from Amazon, should be linked. I've tried so many beeswaxes, and this one seems to work the best for me. And then it's 11 ounces of 76-degree melt point coconut oil that I do get from Soaper's Choice. Okay, so I'm gonna just fill this up, and the nice thing about the Digiboil is you can fill up higher and use it later. So you can just let the wax re-solidify, and that's why I got a second Digiboil, so that way I could use this one for my beeswax blend, and then the other Digiboil is gonna be for my Pure 464. That's how I've been using that one. And my coconut oil in separate containers. Like I put those two oils together, but do the soy wax by itself just because like it's just cleaner for some reason. Like that's how I've always done it. And then also I just find that the coconut oil gets all over everything, and I just like to keep my soy in its own bin. I don't know why I'm like that, but it just kind of helps me, I guess, to do it like that. $19.25 ounces. Okay, 19 point. Okay, there you go. 19.26 is perfect. Tear this again. And then do my coconut oil. In the summertime, the coconut oil gets pretty melty, like because my house is a little bit warmer in the summer than in the winter. So it does tend to be easier to work with in the summer. Okay, so we're doing 11 ounces of this oil. .01 is gonna be perfect. 0.04, there we go. And these are now gonna be ready to pour. So I'd say, yeah, you can sort of see it when the wax starts getting cloudy. You want to pour pretty quick, but usually that's like, I would say like 135 to 145, usually closer to 145. And let's see if I can zoom you in here. This wax sets up much quicker than 464. And I do try to pour down the wood wick. Just keeps it a little bit easier because these black matte jars, they definitely are not as forgiving if you do spill, like I usually do. You always want to have like a paper towel, just like continually wiping the jar, or the pouring pitcher rather. And I usually go back later to top them off. So if you ever get one of these too full, you know, sometimes you just have to do one of these. You can always touch up later with the heat gun as well. Just distributing it so that it's a little bit more even amongst all the jars. See, that one's pretty low, but that wick I just cut a little too short, so what I would do in a case like that is just take a few dollars off that candle. Consider it underfilled. So 2 of those 50-ounce pouring pitchers filled about 13 candles, and these are the 10-ounce vessels from Candles. Alright, so I'm gonna unclamp this. I actually probably left them on a little bit too long, but it should be fine. I mean, I'm not a professional woodworker at all. So I am gonna be more than happy with this. I'm gonna let this cure for like probably a day before I actually use this one. But basically, yeah, I just cut the wood and glued it together, and I'm gonna set my Digiboil on this so that it can be up a little bit more, and so that I can pour my fragrances onto my scale. And this is the very last one here. So you can tell when you need to change the blade on the Cricut when basically your paper is sticking to your labels. So see how it's just very hard for me to get it off, and sometimes it'll just look uneven like that, where it got stuck a little bit when I was trying to tear it off the sheet, or it'll leave little bits of residue like that, and you can just kind of break them off, but it's not quite a professional look. So usually after a couple of days of really active use, I do change the blade, and it's a very easy process. It literally takes less than a minute to do. Okay, so to change the blade, you just open the B clamp, you pull out the housing, which is where the blade is, and then you literally just press down on this button, and then you pull out the blade. And I have purchased some extra blades. I just store them right in here. So I'm gonna set that one off to the side, and I just got these on Amazon really inexpensively. They work perfectly fine. You don't have to buy the Cricut brand. It's so pricey. But yeah, so the side that has the little blade is that one. And then so you just put it right back in. And it just kind of clips right into there. And then all you do is you put that right back in there and close the B clamp. And that is it. There's literally nothing else to it. And this is what the dust covers look like after the blade has been freshly changed. They come off super easy. My Cricut mat has definitely gotten a lot of love, but you can see how easy those pop right off. Again, I'm just going to take one of the Wick clips, put one of them into the Wick clip, and put that in my jar. See where I want the wick to stop. Usually it's right about the top of the jar. Cut that at just a slight angle. Then that is going to be my template for all my other wicks. And I'm going to be holding that up to each wick and then cutting them right at that same place. And it doesn't have to be exact at all, but that's kind of the idea. Oop, I thought this was recording. But anyways, I just did 4.3 ounces of my fig tree, and now I'm doing 0.5 ounces of sandalwood for our Barcelona candle. And so we will have a total of 9.6 ounces, or I'm sorry, a total of 4.8 ounces and 50 ounces of wax. So it's just under a 10% fragrance load. Okay, so you see how we got 4.83, 4.87? That's why I go just under 10% usually, because it gives me a little bit of leeway if I get a tiny bit more. Because I like to use 10% with my wax, I don't ever want it to go above 10%, so that just gives me a little tiny bit of leeway to go at about 9.6% fragrance instead of 10%. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but I'm gonna go ahead and do 3 more of these, and I did spill a little bit on my scale. I always try to keep a paper towel handy, or a couple paper towels, just so I can kind of clean up as I am going. I'm gonna put this one in the trash here. I do not like fragrance kind of getting on things, or staying on them. See, like it drips on the bottle a little bit. And that's pouring down a glass string rod as well. It's like impossible to totally avoid it, I think. And I always cap my fragrance bottles, even when I'm making multiples of the same thing or blending, just because it's so easy to bump something and you just don't really get any second chances with fragrance once it spills. So okay, again, I'm doing 4.3 of the fig tree. I'm just pouring down my glass stirring rod here. What I do is just get these on Amazon, the glass stirring rods. And that is about 4.4, so I'm gonna pour a little bit back. And obviously you can only pour back when you have the same fragrance or you're gonna contaminate your bottle. So now we got 4.3, cap that bottle. And I know it's tedious, but it just really, really helps. And then I do just wipe my stirring rod in between as well. So this is gonna be 4.73. 4.76 and 4.8. Okay, so that is going to be all for that fragrance. Let's give it a little bit of a stir here. And then I'm going to do one more of these. Cap this bottle. Wipe down my area again. It's very kind of like a routine almost. So for the Manhattan fragrance, I'm gonna be blending 4.3 ounces of this oud wood with 0.5 ounces of sandalwood. And this is the release of this scent, so I'm super excited. This is my Manhattan fragrance. A little too much there. 4.34 probably would have been fine, but 4.3. It's so easy to get fragrance everywhere. And then we got our sandalwood, my secret blender for so many fragrances. Take this up to 4.8. That smells amazing. And then 2 more of the Manhattans. I just have a heavy hand today, I think. 4.3. Just using some all-purpose cleaner. Sometimes I use rubbing alcohol for this, but I really don't think you need to. All-purpose cleaner works just fine. And then you see how this always happens. I don't know if it shows up, but you see that little drip. Anyone knows the secret to totally preventing spills, let me know. I have not figured it out. And I'm gonna take these back down to my basement where I store all my fragrance oils. Tour coming very soon. Actually working on rearranging all of them and how I categorize them, because I was categorizing them by like the season as far as the types of scents, but now I think I'm going to categorize my fragrances by the collection that I sell them in. So I'll have my artisan collection, spa collection, autumnal glow, winter wonderland, and wanderlust are my main collections. And so yeah, I hope that helps me a little bit. I have so many oils that it's often hard for me to find them, even though I keep them all generally in the same area. And last but not least, I'm going to be releasing my Luxor candles, which is again the same exact blend, 4.3 ounces of this and 0.5 ounces of this. So it's technically, what is that, a 9.6 to 1 or something. But yeah, this one is gonna be my Luxor candle, and I'm super excited. It smells like a desert. It's literally, it smells arid. It smells like the color orange, like terracotta orange. Oh, this smells amazing. It smells so good. Have any of you tried this Mojave fragrance from 1617? It's so different. There's nothing that remotely compares to it. My last one I'm gonna restock today is my Havana candle, and I'm gonna be doing this Calle 23 again, 4.3 ounces of that and 0.5 ounces of the sandalwood. By Candle Science. And look at how nice my stand is working for the Digiboil that I made. So 50 ounces. We're gonna start with the Barcelona candles. This one. We're at about 195 right now. Let that one cool down. I will often take the temperature with the infrared thermometer, but you just always want to give it that little bit of a stir. And then you see how that reads at I don't know if it shows up, but it reads at 201. There's usually about a 10-degree air margin. And the stick thermometer is going to be the accurate one. So this reads at 189, 190. So again, about 10 degrees lower usually with the stick thermometer. But yeah, this is a super precise thermometer that candy makers often use because they have to be right to the degree. And the infrared thermometer is, measures the surface temperature, and it's using a laser. So it does have a much less accurate reading in general. So I do use both, but when I want those really precise readings, I will go for the infrared, or for the stick thermometer rather. Fragrance, I like to always add my fragrance oil at 185 with both 464 candles and my beeswax soy and cream wax blend. Alright, and this one was ready, so I went ahead and added my fragrance for my my Havana candles. Usually with these little bottles, when you put your fragrance in, you can go back and get just a little more out. Oftentimes I find. got this one on my right going for about a minute, so this one on my left. I'm looking at my video timer on my camera to time this. Now at 185, I need a couple more. I needed a couple more of these. I've now got them all so that they're uniform. And for me personally, if one of mine is at like 186 or 187, I usually just go for it. That smells amazing. Okay, so these are the Luxor candles. But yeah, I've never found that degree or two too high to make a difference or too low. So I would say like 183 to 187 is kind of my range. 185 is obviously perfect, but you're not gonna really notice a difference at all. Going a degree or two above or below, at least. That is my experience. Digiboil up more, I'm not sure exactly. I feel like it's starting to run low. Oh, and I need to grab a towel as well. Out here. Fragrance to our to our Manhattan candles here. And as I mentioned in one of my other videos, I did not start using 2 pots like this for a long time. And I would not recommend it if you're brand new to candle making, because it's enough to just try to focus on one when you're first starting, I think. And as you kind of get the hang of things, you may or may not choose to do it the way I'm doing it, but this is just what works for me. I'm definitely not recommending it. It does work pretty well to where I can get them a degree or 2 difference. Set those off to the side and let them cool. And I gotta add some more wax now to the Digiboil because we are really low, and I still have 1 more Barcelona and 1 more of the Manhattan to go. Just gonna pour these Barcelona candles, and you can see how this wax is like a little tiny bit cloudy. That is kind of a sign that it definitely needs to be poured, because if it doesn't, it's imminently going to begin solidifying. Just pouring straight over the wooden wick. You can see how around the edges, it is already beginning to turn colors, and you're getting little air bubbles, and that is a sign that you poured it a little bit too cold, but that's okay because we can always use the heat gun. And generally I don't consider this a single pour wax anyway, because the beeswax does shrink a little bit, so I do generally use a heat gun on these anyways. Usually after every candle with these larger ones, I try to just wipe the pitcher so that way it doesn't start dripping on me. And then as my pitcher gets less wax, I try to hit the ones in the back. And then I'm just gonna go back through on all these. And then I usually just go in with a heat gun to get that last bit of wax out of the pitchers, because the beeswax soy cocoa cream wax blend is very hard to, well, I should just say beeswax in general is very hard to get out of things. So when you're cleaning like your pouring pitchers and that, it is gonna be much easier if you just go in with the heat gun after you basically have the remaining little bit of wax solidify, and then you just use it up. And it also prevents waste too, obviously. So then at this point I would just take these into my utility sink and clean them with soap and water. 100 ounces of wax, maybe a little bit more than 100, but about 100 ounces of wax fills exactly 13 of these matte blunt jars from Candle Science to the level that I would like them. And that's with heat gunning the bottoms of those pouring pitchers. Oh my gosh, I got distracted and my wax has definitely set more than I would like. But it's okay, because we can always just go back in like I always do with these with the heat gun. And beeswax is one of the more challenging waxes to work with, because you just have a lot less time. It's less forgiving in terms of time than soy, for sure. But what we're gonna do, and if you ever let your wax get too cool for pouring, you can just take a heat gun in your pouring pitcher and get that remainder out. So you see how there's a lot of wax in there? I'm just gonna take a heat gun on low, melt that down, and get the rest of these poured here. It's not ideal, but it definitely works in a pinch. So I am back, and I just heated that on a very low setting, and I'm gonna just fill the rest of these candles now. The beeswax, soy, and cocoa cream candles look so beautiful setting up. And I love the creamy finish on these. But I still, like I said, would not consider this a single pour wax, because it generally does have quite a bit of shrinkage. And that's just what happens with beeswax as it cools. These Manhattan candles smell so good. Oud wood is just an amazing fragrance from Stone Candles. If you haven't smelled it, I would encourage you to get their scent sampler strip that are free. You can get them for free, and you have to check it out. So just so you can all see, this is after pouring the wax, and I have not done any touch-up work with the heat gun. I did go ahead and just trim my wicks a little tiny bit, because some of them were just a hair too long still. And but yeah, there's been no touch-up. And the main thing that I noticed with my wax blend is that because of the amount of beeswax in it, it does have a lot of shrinkage. So the beeswax, you can see how it, let me see if I can zoom you in. You see how that pulls away from the container very slightly around the edges? You can see there's a little bit of space there. And then also you can see where I went and cut the wicks, that there's just a little bit of unevenness there. And honestly, some people may leave it just as it is, maybe touch up the edges and leave the wick as it is. But I do tend to like to just go over these with the heat gun. just because that spacing does kind of bother me, those kind of uneven edges. I definitely prefer a more seamless look, even though I don't mind the sort of unevenness with the wicks. I think that that is kind of sometimes aesthetically pleasing. Basically what I would do is just take this heat gun, and I have this link in the description box, on just a very low setting, and you just kind of, it is time consuming, but you just kind of run this around the circumference, and eventually you'll see the wax melting, and those little gaps will kind of fill in. And this does take some time, and sometimes you can get two going at once. So I get this one kind of like a little bit melted, and then you can go back to the other one. And I haven't actually weighed it out by the seconds to figure out if it's more cost effective to do it, or not cost effective, but more time effective to do it like this, or to just do one at a time. And you also want to make sure that you get the very back portion, because sometimes you can miss that. So see how that wax is just kind of filling in? I just want it to get a little bit more filled in. So I'm looking for that melted part of the wax to just get a little bit higher up around those edges. And then I'll know that when these cool, that is going to fill in properly the way I like it. And then just so you can all see, I just finished these Manhattan candles, and I just go around them with the heat gun, and they're by no means perfect, but basically just filling in those gaps, and then going around the wicks a little bit as well, and that is the final look that I am satisfied with for these candles.